Greetings to you all. Today, let us discuss about Shakespeare and the theatrical conventions of his time. William Shakespeare's plays have the outstanding status of being in the midst of the greatest in English language and literature. Historians have often regarded the fact that the fame of Shakespeare basically rests on the understanding of his human nature. Shakespearean theatre plays a vital role in Western culture and literature. Shakespeare's plays have utilized maximum possibilities of Elizabethan theatre. During the time of Queen Elizabeth, people were devoid of any religious conflicts. They had peaceful life and they never needed fun in their life. The audience were interested in watching dramas during their leisure time. Apart from the royal family and the courtiers, even the common men, the groundlings, needed some place where they could enjoy watching plays. So, that was the glorious time of the great dramatists like Shakespeare, Ben Jonson, and other university wits to showcase their ability in staging plays. Hence, many playhouses were built in and around London. Shakespeare performed at the Globe and the Blackfriars. Most plays of Shakespeare were performed in the Globe Theatre, built in 1599, where there were inner and outer platforms. It was open to all. Working class peasants paid a week's salary to buy a seat in the theatre. The groundlings paid less to stand in front of the stage for the show. The theatre was really small, with the audience very much a part of the play. These productions were repeated over many months' time, and the audiences got to know the actors' lines as well as the stage actors saying them. Facts on the Globe Theatre. It was built between 1597 and 1599 in Southwark on the south bank of London's River Thames. The Globe was built as a large, round, open-air theatre. There was a roof around the circumference which covered the seating area, leaving the theatre looking like a donut from above. The architectural style of the Globe was similar to the Colosseum in Rome, but on a smaller scale. Other Elizabethan theatres also followed this style of architecture, which were called amphitheatres. The Globe had 3 stories of seating and was able to hold up to 3,000 spectators in its 100-foot diameter. At the base of the stage was an area called the pit, which held the groundlings, people who paid just a penny to stand and watch the performance. Color-coded flags were used outside the theatre to advertise the type of play to be performed. A red flag for the history play, white for the comedy, and black for a tragic play. A trumpet was sounded to announce to people that the play was about to begin at the Globe Theatre in order for people to take their final places. Outbreaks of the bubonic plague were so serious in London that the Globe Theatre was forced to close in 1603 and 1608 to restrict its spread. The Globe Theatre was burned down in 1613, where a special effect on stage went wrong. A cannon used for the performance of Henry VIII set light to the thatched roof, and the fire quickly spread, reportedly taking less than 2 hours to burn down completely. After burning down in 1613, the Globe Theatre was rebuilt on the same spot in 1614. The Puritans brought an end to the Globe Theatre in 1642 with an order suppressing all stage plays. In 1644, the Globe Theatre was turned into tenement house, ending 85 years of turbulent history. In 1997, a third version and faithful reconstruction of the Globe was built. The theatrical conventions of Shakespeare's time are the techniques used on stage by the actors to create dramatic effects. It contributes to an overall performance style. It can be specific to a particular historical time period, such as the Elizabethan theatre. A few theatrical conventions of Shakespeare's time are as follows. Soliloquy and aside. One of the most distinctive features of Elizabethan theatre was the use of soliloquy and aside. Soliloquy is when a character speaks to themselves on stage, while aside is when a character speaks to the audience directly without being heard by the other characters on stage. These conventions were used to convey a character's thoughts and feelings and to give the audience insights into the plot and the character's motivation. The next one is bloody effects. It is used to excite and astound the audience. The simplest would be a handkerchief soaked in blood. Bladders filled with the blood of animals such as sheep or bulls were concealed beneath the actors' costumes, which could be pierced by the points of daggers or swords used in stage fights, or just a thump to the chest could produce a gruesome death scene. Animal intestines, tongues, and bones could also be used to enhance the effects. Mask and eavesdropping. Masks were elaborate productions that combined dance, music, poetry, and elaborate costumes and sets. They were often performed at courts and were used to celebrate special occasions such as weddings and royal births. Eavesdropping was a common plot device used in Elizabethan theatre. This involved characters overhearing conversations that were not meant to hear, which often led to dramatic revelations and plot twists. The next one is presentational acting style. The acting style in Elizabethan theatre was highly presentational, with actors using exaggerated gestures and vocal inflections to convey emotions and meaning. This style was influenced by the conventions of ancient Greek and Roman theatre, which were popular during the Renaissance period. The dialogue was a key element of Elizabethan theatre, with characters often engaging in lengthy poetic speeches that explored complex ideas. The language used in these plays was rich and poetic, with a focus on wordplay and metaphor. The next comes the trapdoors. They were used for dramatic entrances during the performances of plays. They were built in the floor of the stage, which were called hell, and in the stage ceiling, which were treated as heaven. The height of the stage was 5 feet, so the area beneath the stage was easily big enough to hold both actors and props. The actors, attached by a harness with wires or ropes, could make flying entrances onto the stage, and props could be lowered on the stage through the heavens. Play within a play. This involved a play being performed within the large context of another play, often as a form of comic relief or to comment on the main plot. Cannons and fireworks used during battle scenes to recreate the sounds of the battlefields. Musicians were employed to enhance the overall theatre experience. They were housed in one of the balconies above the stage. Musical instruments such as trumpet, chimes, bells, or drums were used to make sounds coming from hell. Speaking about the stagecraft, it was made up of elaborate costumes and rich dialogues to make up for the almost non-existent scenery. Acting spaces were largely empty except for maybe a tree to signify a forest or a throne for a king's palace. Costumes were so colorful and rich that the audience could tell the status of the person from their costume. No stage lights, so the plays were just performed during daylight hours. At the same time, it was frowned upon and deemed unsuitable for women, as acting in the play was considered to be rough and rowdy and not gentle. And so, boys performed the female roles and women were not legally allowed to perform in plays on the English stage until 1660. Playwrights had no choice but to cast young men in the roles of women. The acting and staging conventions of Elizabethan theatre were diverse and complex and continue to influence the modern theatre today. From the use of soliloquy and aside to the elaborate productions of the masque, Elizabethan theatre was a vibrant and exciting art form that pushed the boundaries of what was possible on stage. As theatre continues to evolve and change, it is important to remember that the rich history and tradition that have shaped this art form into what it is today. Shakespeare in film and play production. The 20th and 21st centuries have seen a surge of interest in Shakespeare's works on the stage. Productions of his plays have become increasingly popular in the modern era, with many directors taking creative liberties to make the work more accessible to contemporary audiences. Productions have been set in a variety of different time periods, with some even being updated to modern day settings. Film adaptations. Film adaptations of Shakespeare's works have been around since the early days of the cinema. The first adaptation of a Shakespeare's play was a silent film of Romeo and Juliet in 1908, and since then there have been numerous adaptations of his plays, from the classic Laurence Olivier version of Hamlet to the modernized. While some adaptations remain faithful to the original text, others take a more creative approach, changing the setting, characters, and even the plot itself. The range of film adaptations of Shakespeare's works is remarkable, from Hollywood blockbusters to low-budget independent films. His works continue to inspire directors, a testament to the timeless quality. I have also added a few quiz questions and also references. Thank you for your patient listening.